Hey folks, Doc here. Been a while, good to see you. Why don't you sit down, grab a cup of your favorite beverage, maybe throw some popcorn in the microwave. It's story time. I'm going to tell you a story. Some of you have probably noticed that, I know my way around speed and gearing calculations. I'm well familiar with centrifugal clutches and operations thereof, and CVTs, torque converters, and the like. And a lot of you probably don't know why. Some of you might be aware of the fact that before I was into the modified lawn tractor stuff, I was into go-kart stuff. In fact, I was a moderator on DIYGokarts.com for several years. I think I still technically hold my moderator status, but I haven't visited the site in a while. Interests come and interests go. Ever since I was a kid, I had a love of go-karts. And, that's fairly common. I mean, there's adults that love go-karts. And I think the whole thing started for me back when I was, I'm going to say 10 or 11 years old. And my mother married this dude who obviously was not my father, he'd be my stepfather. And at one point or another, my stepfather bought a classic go-kart frame. I've never been able to identify it. It could have even been home built, and all I have to go on is my memories. I don't have any pictures from back then, because we're talking, mid-80s here. And a 5-horse Briggs & Stratton flathead, and it was just the chassis and the engine, no wheels, no hardware, no nothing, just the stuff. And the engine ran. There was a couple of times, sitting on the driveway, I'd put my foot on it and pull start it and run it for a minute and go, yeah. Anyways, my stepfather turned out to be a Class A knob, to the point where when that family, as it were, kind of broke up when I was 14, for about 10 years I really did wish to find him and drill his face. But anyways, moving on, this go-kart frame and engine sat around for years and years and years. And every time I was promised that we were going to build it, oh, I don't want to do it right now. Oh, you didn't clean your room right. Oh, your shirt's on a little bit crooked, so you're a bad boy, so we're not going to do it. So, I mean, that just led to a lot of steam and BS. And led me to think that, okay, one day I'm going to build a go-kart. And sure enough, I built go-karts and I bought go-karts and I had fun with go-karts. And I was into them for many years, and I modified them. I built suspension on one. But the last go-kart, this is the story of the last go-kart. The last go-kart came to me as a piece of crap that I bought on Craigslist. It was a commercially produced fun kart frame. Now we're talking classic go-kart here, not a suspension buggy thing with the tubular cage and all that, but good old-fashioned knees in your face, nothing to it go-kart. And I picked it up cheap, and the thing was hashed. I've got some pictures on my computer I'm going to bring into this video and kind of give you a little pictorial review of what it is, what it was, what I did to it. Anyways, the thing was absolutely mangled, and first I thought, okay, I'll get it into running condition, and then that kind of turned into this. It's a little windy out here, so bear with me, the weather's about to turn to crap again. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is Reactor. Well, it's not Reactor looking the best it's ever looked. It's been sitting stored somewhat poorly since 2013. But this is how it currently sits. And I've got it sitting outside because I got to tidy the shop up a little bit. I'm going to jam it in the shop and see if I can't get a little bit of work done to it. We can go over the features just a little bit briefly here. Kind of a nuclear theme. So I've got it painted this sort of nuclear yellow, which would look a lot better if it wasn't dirty as hell. And I've got racing kart rain tires on it because I wanted treaded tires. And I've got some lights. They're not looking so good anymore. It's been bashed around in the move and whatnot. Lit pedals and all shoot match. I've got a fiberglass racing kart tank on it. Obviously all this fluorescent orange looked a hell of a lot brighter too before it became faded. I'll get to the engine in a minute. And it's got a Chevette steering wheel that I cut into a yoke. Thought that was kind of cool. And 16 gauge expanded metal mesh flooring. And some cool switches and buttons. And it actually had an ignition light in the dash too. I stole the light for another project a while ago. And that would have been a temperature gauge. There you go. on the engine. The engine is a PowerFist 6.5 clone, so that's a Honda GX200 clone engine, Chinese made, and it is pretty much stock except for a governor delete. The only other thing that I changed on, as you can see, is I made a custom intake manifold, and I've got a Mikuni style carburetor on it. That would have been a VM22 or equivalent. I honestly can't remember if it's a legitimate Mikuni or not at this point. And I just did a thing with a plumbing elbow, and I just had this need to put a freaky chrome air cleaner on it. The exhaust pipe is one of those grab bars that you see in a bathroom for wheelchair users and such to be able to haul themselves around up and on and off the potty without killing themselves. Cut a chunk off it, made a flange, bolted it on. Straight pipe, you betcha. Live axle, disc brake. There's the sprocket. You'll notice there's no clutch on that. I'll get back to that in a minute. There's the mechanical disc brake caliper. TS4WD. Y'all are wondering, well, before I was Doc Sprocket, I was Toy Story 4-wheel drive on the go-kart forum. So I autographed it when I built it. So there's your mechanical disc brake going off to the pedals. And there is no clutch on this thing because I had a centrifugal clutch on it, and I was thinking about changing over to a CVT for a little more top-end speed. This engine is almost completely brand new. I bought it brand new from the store, unboxed it, tore it apart, ripped the governor out, put it all back together again, did a run on it, made sure everything was good, changed the carburetor, did a run on that, and realized that yes, I need to do some rejetting because it was leaning out in the top end. Anything about 3/4 throttle and above it would just fall flat on its face. Did a plug chop, she's lean, need a jetting kit. Now, as you see, the control cables aren't hooked up, and that's because I never finished this thing. So I picked the go-kart up and realized it needed a bunch of work, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to bolt my Tecumseh H60 to it. That was my go-to go-kart engine. I had had that thing for years. Punched the hell out of it, you know, 6,000 RPM, no problems, stock engine, degoverned, yada yada yada. A lot of people bash on the Tecumsehs, and I thought that the H series was pretty good. I never had a problem with them. I had a few of them. That H60 I converted over to electronic ignition, and that thing just ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. Anyways, as I was working on the go-kart and getting it up and running, you know, it looked really ratty. Pictures are coming, and I thought I might go with a rat theme, and I kind of named it the Alley Cat or something like that, and I made an air cleaner out of a tuna can, and it looked kind of cool, but after I played with it for a while, I realized, you know what, I'm just going to redo this whole bloody thing, give it a new lease on life. And here's where the story gets interesting. I got about 75% of the way done through doing that, and that's when life caught me by the short and curlies, and I found out, hey, guess what, you know, you've got a massive tumor in your right kidney, and we're going to take out your kidney. So, a little bit of cancer removal surgery later, and I didn't finish the go-kart, and it sat, and it sat, and it sat, and it sat, and it sat. And here we are, you know, 6 years later, whatever the case may be, and I've got to make a decision. It's sitting there collecting dust, or I can invest a few hours into it and get it going again. And I think that's what I'm going to do. We're inching towards spring. I got to do a major cleaning of the shop. Let's build it. But in the meantime, let me show you what I did do to it. Alright, so here's what it looked like when I picked it up. As you can see, it was a really basic fun cart. Somebody had put on dolly wheels and tires instead of the proper go-kart wheels and tires, which is hazardous as hell in and of itself. It did have that seat pad, which I still have around somewhere. It's kind of a handy thing to have. But the whole thing was actually kind of a bit of a gong show. Here's a quick shot from the rear, and you can see that the original configuration was actually a one-legger, right? So it had a dead axle. The sprocket was hubbed directly to the left rear tire, and the engine just drove the left rear. I think it had some sort of a scrub brake or a band brake thing originally that I wound up ripping off. This next series of shots shows you the general condition of the floor, specifically when I got it. Booger welded 17 ways from Sunday. Really, really horrible. Bad paint, rust, holes in it. It was just absolutely nasty. And that's kind of what brought me to decide to cut out the floor completely and just redo it. And then I decided on the metal mesh. This right here was one of the two things that prompted me to completely redo this thing. As you can see, the right front axle stub is bent back a good inch or so, probably from a curb impact, and obviously that had to be repaired. So I heated it, I banged the stub back into place, got everything set up again. You can see I've got the tank mocked up here, and I decided that the steering geometry was garbage with the forward-facing steering arms, and you know, it wound up with reverse Ackerman because of that, and it was just really hideous. So I wound up cutting the whole shooting match apart and completely redoing the steering geometry. Here's a great picture showing the before and after of the front end renovation. On the left you see the bent stub axle, the forward-facing steering arms, the horrible geometry, and the short front porch. On the right you can see it after I straightened out the stub axle, flipped the steering around to the rear, corrected the Ackerman angle, and added onto the front porch. And when I test drove it after that, the difference was night and day. It steered like it was on rails. The other major factor in a total redo of this damn thing is I discovered the frame was actually twisted, possibly from the same curb impact. So with a bunch of measurements and a level, and I pinned the thing to the ground with the front end of a bucket loader, and twisting and forcing and beating on it with a steel pipe, and I did manage to actually get the frame pretty damn straight, which is impressive because it was quite a twist in it, and it actually took quite a bit of effort to sort out. But I got it done. In and amongst all of that, I decided the peg leg thing was for the birds, and I cut off the axle tube and welded on some bearing hangers and did a live axle conversion on this thing because, damn it, I want the two-wheel peel. And that's what I ended up doing to that. After I got that done, I put the brake on, the sprocket on, I bought the engine, slapped that thing on, took it for a test run, and decided that at that point it was good enough to blow apart for paint. So here's some pictures from paint and final assembly. I primed it in white, I painted the engine with flat black and the fluorescent orange, and I painted the frame yellow, and it's kind of hard to see in the pictures, but I did a pinstripe, a double pinstripe around the perimeter, and started putting it all back together and getting the fit and finish and all that stuff. And this is basically as far as I got with the project. It's, you know, fundamentally done except for, you know, let's take off the clutch and change it out for a CVT. Never got the controls connected, never got the fuel system done, and like I said, life hit me square in the cojones and it got hung up. You know, just before we go, I just wanted to show you how go-karts and lawn tractors started to come together for me. This is a go-kart that I scratch built for my kids when they were young, and it does have some lawn tractor parts on it. The thing is completely home built. They had a blast with it, and it sort of, you know, one thing leads to another, and there's that. Now, you know this story wouldn't be complete without a picture of the ultimate go-kart lawn tractor crossover that I built, the Diesel Weasel. That's the culmination of all my go-kart love and my lawn tractor love, all smacked into one, combined with my love of rat rods, hot rods, and all things speed, grease, diesel, oil, and flames. So listen, I hope you enjoyed my little show and tell. Thank you for tuning into Sprocket's Garage on YouTube, and until next time, take care of yourself.